Hello learners, I am Dr. Kumar Bhardwaj and I am working as librarian at St. Stephen's College. Today we are going to take up a topic, it is a conceptual understanding of chain indexing. So, this chain indexing method was devised by Ranganathan, and Ranganathan believed that this is the most mechanical and most efficient method of deriving the subject headings. And Ranganathan invented this method because of various reasons, because he believed that the subject heading and the other kind of a controlled vocabulary which we use in deriving the subject headings is a biased in one or another context, because these subject headings are mainly made in the developed country. Therefore, there are some kind of a biases, and these controlled vocabularies create problem in making subject heading, then they are not relevant as far as in the developing countries or in different type of libraries are concerned. So, before we begin what is chain indexing, we need to understand the subject cataloging as a subject, or what is subject cataloging. So, a book or any other type of information source has number of representations to access the document, because when the users come to the library, they have to access the document from different descriptors. They know some descriptors, sometimes they do not know descriptors, they only know the subject. Therefore, this representation could be limited, because we have to provide representations to all documents, because it is not feasible and not possible to give large number of descriptors or not large number of subject representations. Therefore, each document representation is in the form of a catalog entry, and the entry contains information regarding some characteristics of the document, such as authorship, subject content, or so on, like keywords also. But in the cataloging, the subject content are very much important, because large number of people who come to the library, they do not know the title and author of the book, they only come to the library with the subject, and they, because they want to get document on a particular subject. So, the access point are provided in the catalog using the subject headings or using the controlled vocabulary, I should say. The entry in which the catalog which contain the subject content and the help the user in retrieval of the document by subject are known as subject entries. So, I am sure now you got it what the subject entries are all about, and the process of preparing subject entries of the document in a library is so that the document can be retrieved from the stock or from the collections by user is known as subject cataloging. Give you a definitions in a quotes, I should say the quote starts, the assigning of heading and references with the retrieval of document through the medium of a catalog in response to request for information on a specific subject is generally defined as a subject cataloging, unquote here. So, this is a specific definition you can find in any book, that this is the meaning of subject cataloging, but the mainly you need to understand that it is the process through which subject description of a document is done, and largely you also need to understand what is the aim of this subject cataloging, and the aim is to provide access by subject to all relevant material, because if you will not provide the access to the relevant material, you will not be able to get the document, the user will not be able to get the document which they tend to access from the collections. If you come to the point of a 5 laws of library science, 5 laws say that books are for use every reader should get his or her document or his book. So, that second laws can be fulfilled when you will provide various access points to the users, and as far as the subject headings are concerned, that can only provide or help the users to get the document on a particular subject in the library. So, to bring together reference to the material which treat substantially the same subject regardless of differences among group of subject specialists and are from the changing nature of the concept with the discipline itself. Subject cataloging also provide entry through any vocabulary common to a considerable group of users, so that the maximum user can also access the document. Because when the user come to the library, sometimes they memorize what is the title, what is the author, but large number of users, they don't come with this descriptor, they only know the subject, they want to know what the library has on a particular subject, because they need document for their research. So, to provide formal description of the subject content, and that description could be in a class number or any other symbolic. To provide means to the users to make a selection from among all terms in any particular category according to any chosen set of criteria, such as most thorough, most recent, etc. So, that is another aspect. So, therefore, in order to achieve these aims and objectives, subject cataloger follow different labels and different concepts about the scope and association with other subjects that are evident. Apart from that, subject catalog show what a library has on a subject or allied subject. So, subject cataloging is not just to give you an overview that what the library has on a particular subject, but it also gives you what the library has on an allied subject. So, now you need to understand what are the need and purpose of subject cataloging. Without that, you will not be able to understand what is the chain indexing and what is its purposes. Large number of users access library using subject term. Thus, a cataloger has to prepare the subject based on entries to fulfill their need. If some has to know what the library possesses on a subject, and sometimes use only remember subject access point when visiting libraries. Different difficulties subject cataloger face in day to day routine when they prepare the subject headings in the library, either through the chain indexing or through the controlled vocabulary. One major problem subject cataloger faces is the synonyms, because there are one subject heading that there could be many synonyms of that. So, synonyms is one of the major problem for the subject cataloger, because some people may come with the one subject terms, some people may come with the another terms, but they are same. So, that is one problem subject cataloger face, or I should say cataloger face when they prepare the subject headings. Apart from that, subject may have a technical names. So, these technical names come under one subject headings. So, that is another problem. There could be very varied technical names, and use of pattern of term, because due to the change the term get its usage change. That is also another problem, because time to time terms or usage also change, and the cataloger has to keep in mind all these things, because 20 years ago one term was more popular, but nowadays that term become antiquated. So, that is another problem the subject cataloger face while preparing the entries or driving the subject headings. Sometimes concepts are varied in different version of the language. Sometimes like American English, the term is spelling is different, in British English spelling is different. People may search with the different term, like in organizations. So, organization in American English and a British English, the spelling is slightly different. So, apart from that, singular form of the terms and plural form of the term is also a problem, apart from the different version of the languages, like in American English and British English, that is a problem. So, now you need to understand what are the different processes of preparing or doing a subject cataloging. So, there are standard methods. One method is that you can drive the subject heading using the controlled vocabulary, and there are several controlled vocabulary. In general are like Sears list of subject headings. We have a Library of Congress subject headings. So, Sears list of subject heading is mainly for a small library, because it is a small book wherein the limited subject headings are given. However, the Library of Congress is a large voluminous document where you can find large number of subject headings. So, if you are preparing subject headings for a larger library, or then people prefer the Library of Congress subject heading. But if you are working in a school library or a college library, you can also manage with the CS list of subject headings. So, these are one method, two major controlled vocabulary document. Apart from that, another second method is, apart from the controlled vocabulary, that is a chain indexing, which was derived by the Ranganathan. So, Ranganathan believed that the class number of the document as the base for deriving subject headings. So, he says that a set of rules and procedure of chain procedure for classified catalog code with the object of deriving class index entries, and that we also call it subject index entry. So, what it means is that the class number of the document which we provide after the classification, that can also be taken as a basis for deriving the subject headings, and that is the basically mainly the chain indexing system. Other classification scheme, because it is meant for initially for the column classifications, Ranganathan invented for the column classification, but it can also be used for other kind of a scheme which are actually hierarchical in nature, like in that chain procedure can also be used for the divided decimal classification or any other kind of a classification scheme which has a hierarchical patterns, because hierarchy is very important here. Chain procedure has also been used to derive specific subject headings and the subject reference entry in a dictionary catalog. The subject heading provides synonyms terms wherein a major flaw is some current concept or always missing, that is a one thing. Uniformity is another problem in selecting more specific heading. Apart from that, no help is provided in eliminating the wrong headings. Identical material may get entered under different heading, and the biases is another problem, and apart from that, the indexer who has been working in different region have to work a lot to make it suitable to their users. So, because of these problems which I listed related to the controlled vocabulary, Ranganathan found that there is a lot of dissatisfaction with the subject heading or controlled vocabulary, and he invented the system called a chain procedure. So, chain procedure is to drive subject headings for alphabetical part of the classified catalog, wherein assignment of subject headings through a chain indexing is almost a mechanical method. It is an economic, cleverly simple, a method of mechanically deriving subject heading from the class number of the document itself. It completely eliminates the endless permutations of component of the heading in a cyclic methods. So, chain indexing techniques takes the class number of the document as the base for deriving subject headings, and Ranganathan formulated a set of rules and procedure of chain procedure for classified catalog code with the object of deriving class index entry. We also call it as subject index entries. So, not just the CC, but other classification scheme can be used for the same purpose also. So, that you need to remember. I have already described that you need to remember that the classification scheme which you have been using for deriving the subject heading should follow the hierarchical pattern, then only the chain indexing can be successful, chain cataloging procedure can be successful. So, now we need to understand the formulations of chain indexing. So, what are the different formulation strategies and steps? So, first thing is classification of the subject of the document. So, first you have to classify the document using the classification schemes. That is one of the major foundation and fundamentals of driving the chain indexings or making the cataloging system using the chain indexing procedures. The second step is representation of the class number in the form of a chain. That is also very important, that you need to give representation of the class number in the chain. Then digit by digit interpretation of the class number is also one of the major aspect of the chain indexing. Then afterwards you need to determine different kind of links, whether it is a false link, whether it is a short link or missing links or unsort links. Then you need to have a derivation of the subject heading, and then you need to start construction of a subject heading. So, these are mainly the steps that you have to follow if you have made your mind that you are going to make a subject heading of in your library using the chain procedure methods. So, what we need to understand each and every methods in a brief. So, first step which we discuss is a classification of the subject of the document, wherein the class number of a document according to the classification scheme is obtained by the application of a postulates and of a basic subject. Fundamental categories, round and levels and principle of facet sequence is also ascertained here. This involves subject analysis of the document into different facets idea and approaching them to the fundamental categories of PMEST and fixing their sequence. So, but I have already described you that even if you are not using the Cataloguing classification wherein PMEST is given, you can also follow this procedure. You can also ascertain the subject. Okay. Then the 8th step in construction of a class number has to be followed, which are provided by Ranganathan, such as raw title, expressive titles, and other step such as the kernel titles and analyzed titles, wherein the kernel title with each kernel term marked by a symbols denoting a composite idea replaced by the fundamental constituent terms denoting its fundamental constituent ideas. Then 5th you have to follow is the transform titles, wherein the analytical title with the kernel terms rearrange according to the symbol of analysis attached to them. 6th is standardized titles, wherein the transform title with the kernel term replaced wherever necessary by their respective equivalent as given in the appropriate schedules. And the 7th you need to remember is the title in a facet number, wherein the title in standard terms with the kernel terms replaced by their equivalent number is given. Last step, the classification number is also got by removing the symbols of analysis and inserting the appropriate connecting symbols between the facet number in according with the rules. The representations of the class number in the form of a chain, that once the class number of the document is constructed, it is used by the subject catalog for the purpose of deriving the subject heading, and there is no need for subject catalog to determine independently the subject of the document once the class number is available to the person, the cataloger. So, that means what I tend to say here, that once the class number is given on the document after the classification scheme, the cataloger no need to go back and analyze the document. He has to use the class number as the basis to drive the subject heading. First you need to understand that digit by digit interpretation of the class number when you are driving the subject heading using the chain procedure, and then make sure first link from the first digit, make the second link out to the 2 digit and so on. Write the link one below the other in successions. If there is a class number, then you need to ascertain, you have to go one by one link by one in successions. So, write against each link is translation into natural language, that also you need to find out. Like if there is a book 954, so 954 means history of India. So, 900 you need to ascertain that it is for the history and geography, and then 954 is for the history of India. So, India and history. So, that is how step by step you have to go. But if there is a like number 330.954, this is for Indian economics. So, here 330 dot, so dot here it's become a false link. So, we do not drive headings for 330 dot, we do not drive for 330 here, we do not drive heading for 33. So, that also is a false link. So, that you need to understand what is a false link, what is short link, what is missing link. So, false link, a link which emanates from a non-semantic digit, that is an indicator digit. This is either a punctuation mark or the digit 0 or a dot. So, that is a, you need to remember it is a false link. Such a link does not represent a subject, but is indicator of the type of the facet to follow. Ranganathan also designate the time facet as a false link, as it may not correspond to some verbal headings. I am giving you one example. So, here 3330 donates economics, 336 denotes public finance, and if there is a 336.954, that is for public finance and economics. So, that is a, or 330.954, that is for Indian economics. So, that is how we drive actually heading using the class number. The second aspect is what is unsort link. So, it is a substantive heading on which either there is no published material or a user is unlikely to ask or look for material on that subject in the library, but it is not anything obsolete and may differ from library to library. It may depends upon the factor listed in the catalog code itself. Apart from that, it varies on a local situations. Sometimes local situation says this is not an unsort link, and sometimes it says it is a sort link. So, we have to ascertain and identify the sort and unsort link, keeping in view the regional settings. Apart from that, library users' interests and needs are also very important when we describe what is sort and what is unsort. Level and kindness of services provided by the library is also another factor. Hence, each library has to make a policy on what and how to define and designate sort and unsort links. A link in a chain representation is subject on which reading material is not likely to be looked upon by the users. These rules admit of local variation in its applications. This link will not receive any index entry, that you need to remember. When we make entries in the subject in the catalog, we make entry only for the sort links, sort headings, because when the user will come, they need document, and these could be a starting point for their search or navigating in the library collections. But if you will provide the unsort headings, nobody will use it. That will actually add only to your catalog. That will only take space in your catalog, whether you are using the physical catalog or the electronic one. So, now you need to understand meticulously what is the sort link. A link in a chain representing a subject which is likely to be sought by a user. This link only will receive index entry. Last one is a missing link. It is a bypass link which occurs in an unmodulated chain. It is an invisible link without its rightful upper link. How to drive, how to make a heading using these methods. So, there are different steps, and the first step is make the first link from the first digit, which is always a main class digit, and provides the anchoring context to the later headings. Make the second link from the first two digit and the third from the first three digit, and so on till you drive all your subject headings. So, that is how you have to follow it. Write the links vertically one below the other in two columns, class number digit on the left and the corresponding verbal headings as taken from the schedule on the right, later preceded by an equal to sign. So, that is one thing that you need to divide. If you are preparing subject heading in advance on a piece of paper, you need to have a two column. In left column you need to write the class numbers, and the right side you need to drive engage the digit, the headings. So, always qualify the terms in the link by the term of the upper link to maintain the full context. Supply heading for the missing link if any. Categorize all the headings into sort headings and unsort headings. Engage any false link, write F all without writing any term, because we are not making entries for the false link. So, you have to give some notation that these are the false link. Either you can use FL or you can use your own notations. After solving all the links of the chain, pick up all the sort links and arrange them in a specific to journal order. It simply means that start picking the sort links from the last sort link in the chain and move upward in the first link which is listed last in the sorted and arranged heading. Why we are doing so? Because that is a specific to journal. So, you have to give specific heading first, and then you have to give the later part of the chain. So, sort heading may be edited by the indexer to make the term bit tidy by removing the intervening terms which are no more needed to keep the heading in the context. Ranganathan allow the use of an axiomatic phrase if it exists to replace the whole heading to make it a brief and cryptic. So, that is the steps, and that is the procedure. But these things are very important, that as a cataloger you need to understand what is the sort headings, what is unsort heading, what is a false link, and what is a missing link. So, if you understand these 4 major component of the subject heading fully, you would be able to drive the subject headings very conveniently. I am giving one more example of that 336.954. So, here how many entries you can make, how many subject headings you can make. So, essentially we can drive 3 subject headings out of this class number. First is 330, the number I am repeating it again is 336.954. So, first number you have to take, that is a 330, which means the economics in the divisible classifications. 336 means public finance, and 336.954 means history public finance in India. So, when you will make the subject heading, you have to take the last terms firstly, and then you will go in the other order. So, that is how we can make subject headings using not just the colon classification, but the divisible classification system scheme can also be used in driving the subject headings. I hope now you got an understanding what is chain indexing and how you can use the chain indexing system in your day to day operation to make the subject headings for your catalog. Remember one thing, that laws of library science also gives us a directions, and they says the third laws, we have discussed 2 laws, and third law says each document should have his or her reader, which means the document in the library should also be used optimally, and the subject headings empowers the users to reach to the documents which are not being used, because when the researcher will come to the library, the researcher would like to know what the library has on a different topic, and the subject headings can empower the researchers, the readers, the users of the library to know what the library has on a particular subject, and essentially that will lead to the optimum utilization of library collections. So, with this I am sure you understand this topic fully now. So, if you have any doubt, any questions, you can reach to me through my email ID, which is given on the screen. I also acknowledge here all the reference sources, all the sources which I have taken from the internet to prepare these presentations. So, with this I thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you.